It is said in history that some seek greatness while others have it thrust upon them. And an enduring theme in American politics is inspired leadership meeting challenges, bringing hope and change. George Washington and his fledgling army defeating the British Empire to give birth to a nation. Abraham Lincoln meeting the challenges of a house divided against itself to bring emancipation to an enslaved people. A crippled Franklin Roosevelt who struck a new deal for a nation steeped in an economic depression and faced with its Second World War. The young man from Camelot, John F. Kennedy, who squared off against an aggression in Cuban Missile Crisis and cast his eyes yet towards a new frontier of space exploration to be the first nation to land a man on the moon. And many in political image making acknowledge that these are the examples of what leadership looks like and try to fashion their candidates in that mold, and we have seen many examples in our present troubled age. The incumbent, Congressman Donald Byer, and favorite son, boasts of his triumph over a disabling condition that he has had since childhood, despite constantly reminding all of his moral philosophy hero, Peter Singer, who advocates for infanticide of children afflicted with similar conditions. He lied to Planned Parenthood supporters, claiming that he was championing abortion with them at the Supreme Court in June 2016. But he did manage to champion a spelling bee. He boasts of his standoff against the cameo appearance by Charlton Heston during his unsuccessful bid for governor. And now he is trying to convince voters that the Republicans, who nominated a 25-year-old kid with no experience and a GoFundMe account, are trying to unseat him and his almost $1 million campaign war chest to provide another rubber stamp for Donald Trump. Is that what leadership looks like? Is that what is called a great NBA 8? Major Mike Webb comes from a family tradition that knows what it means to overcome obstacles and bring about positive change. His grandfather was a Baptist preacher in North Carolina during the period of a wave of lynchings. For his political activism in championship of the franchise right, he was crippled for the remaining 12 years of his life, casting his family into abject poverty and being forced to abandon his home. But the church that he built remains an enduring legacy listed on the National Historic Register. His father, cast into poverty, endured menial jobs as a tailor's assistant, a shipping clerk, and a golf course weeder, as well as prohibition from living in the dormitory of his college, lest the color of his skin rub off in the sheets. But he not only graduated from that college, but went on to earn his Doctor of Divinity from that same college, where he was named as the first African-American member of the Board of Trustees. That man denied a room in a dormitory, went on further to take a ghetto church and raise it from being a 50-member congregation to a 1,500-member congregation. From a church with no college graduates except one to a membership where almost everyone had completed college or at least aspired towards that goal. First Lady Barbara Bush called him truly the Fishes and Loaves Minister. And despite a birth of privilege and graduation from the most elite college in the Commonwealth of Virginia, many are all too familiar with the most recent sudden challenges of Major Mike Webb, falsely accused of stolen valor regarding his service as an Army Ranger, terminated from his employment immediately after being announced in the press as a challenger to Congressman Byron, and almost immediately thereafter offered a lucrative job with the federal government for which he was not even qualified and which would have barred him from continuing his challenge campaign under the Hatch Act. Inability to later obtain employment in his profession as a paralegal in the best market for legal professionals in the country at a time when nationwide unemployment statistics demonstrate a period of economic recovery. But he has suffered since his challenge to Don Beyer 2 bankruptcy filings, foreclosure on his former home, repossession of his automobile, and now suddenly a debt collection action brought by his former condominium, a claim of unpaid taxes by the IRS, an excessive penalty for civil disobedience, an eviction from his campaign headquarters in Alexandria, and now even a subpoena served by the state of New York, all of which Congressman Beyer denies has anything to do with politics. Yet even while being denied emergency shelter in Arlington as a homeless man by the county government agency that administers health and human services during the harsh winter that included an unprecedented winter cyclone hurricane bomb that killed 22 persons nationwide, Major Mike Webb managed to display an indefatigable spirit, submitting 3 legislative proposals to the U.S. Congress for consideration in the current Congress to address mass gun violence, persecution against anti-abortion protesters, and addressing the current infrastructure problems around the nation's capital, while also bringing voting representation to that city's residents. As a suddenly homeless candidate, denied even a why you should vote for me interview, an article in a major local newspaper that was provided to every other Arlington candidate, Major Mike Webb, in a self-financed campaign and endorsed by no major party, captured 18% of the liberal Arlington vote in a school board race, besting even the last vote total of the last Republican to run for a county-wide seat. And while submitting to the school board a proposal to commission a study on a persistent and anomalous achievement gap for students of color, a proposal to address both the achievement gap and the inundation of projected students who will fill already overcrowded classrooms over the next decade, and a security plan for a serious threat to the safety of our students against the potential for a mass gun violence attack that could result in the worst school tragedy in history. Surrender is not a Ranger word, and Major Mike Webb has met challenge after challenge with indefatigable energy and boundless innovation, has been mocked as unqualified, ignorant, and even mentally ill, but he continues to come back again and again with no giving up or turning back. Surrender is not a Ranger word. That is the mark of greatness and vision, and that's what leadership looks like. Why should you accept anything less? Non incautus futuri is the motto of Washington and Lee University, not unmindful of the future. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress. Next year, in Jerusalem, in liberty, with honor and excellence, the South shall rise again. Honest. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb. You can't save the world if you are never